And is it me, or do Republicans just like getting throttled? Because when it comes to the Tea Party, to whom they owe a great deal, in fact, their majority in the House comes to mind, they're kind of giving them the shaft. And right now, closing them out of a lot of key budget negotiations and this whole revenue issue. Some Tea Partiers are aghast at that and say that the party shouldn't blink when it comes to taxes. But a lot of blinking going on right now. In fact, a lot of caving to hear some more conservative members of the Tea Party tell it going on right now. Utah Republican Senator, Tea Party favorite Mike Lee joining me right now. Senator, what's happened to the Tea Party?
Well, look, this movement, this conservative grassroots movement that started in 2009 is alive and well. And we've had more people join our ranks this time around with this election. And it's going to continue to keep growing. It will keep growing as long as those who are elected under this mindset continue to stick to our principles and continue to say that the government's big enough and that we don't have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem in Washington.
Well, I don't hear it out of all the leaders, and maybe, you know, you're certainly closer to this than I'll ever be, but judging from some appointments already being made in the House, from this reading of the Riot Act by Speaker Boehner to Republican troops, including many Tea Partiers, the message was, you know, get in line, get in line. What do you make of that?
Yeah, that may be true, but look, it's hard to read too much into those statements, and it's hard to come to firm, definite conclusions right now as to what those mean. Meanwhile, those of us who owe our elections to this movement, who understand that our constituents expect us to hold government spending and to prevent the inexorable growth of taxation, need to stay true to our principles and need to remember why we came here.
Well, some of them seem to be forgetting that. I can understand maybe some disappointment at Tea Party Senate candidates who seem to grab defeat from the jaws of what looked like victory. I can understand frustration on the part of some Republicans for that, but they forget that it was the Tea Party that brought so many of you to power, and in the House provided, 80 some odd, restless revolutionaries who took over the place. So I'm wondering whether some Tea Partiers are chafing at that.
Well, first of all, we have to remember, Neil, that we've had 3 U.S. senators elected this year under the Republican Party. All 3 of them can be closely identified with the Tea Party movement. And yeah, we suffered some losses this year. But importantly, those people who lost, who were expected to win, lost after they deviated from this basic message, which is that the federal government's too big, it's too expensive, and it's taxing us too much.
You hit a very good point. Do you think, Senator, that when the Tea Party started veering in, and not the Tea Party officially because it's so many disparate groups, but when some of those candidates veered into social issues, that the Tea Party's message got blurred? However you feel on some of these social issues, that it got blurred and confused.
The message certainly got blurred. Now, that's not to say that Tea Party people don't care about social issues. I'm Tea Party and I do care about some social issues. But the point is that the major thrust of this movement is to focus on the fact that the federal government's too big and it's too expensive. It's taking too much of our money, and throwing more money at it, raising taxes, isn't going to help it. It's going to make matters a lot worse.
So you're a no budge on any issue of revenues, including closing credits, loopholes, all of that?
Look, the term revenues is a loaded term. If the question is, am I in favor of raising taxes? Am I in favor of looking at this as a revenue problem rather than a spending problem? Absolutely not. But there are a lot of ways that we can look to solve this problem, and I'm certainly in favor of extending all of the current tax rates while we undertake an effort to reform the tax code comprehensively.
You know, the president seemed to be as unequivocal as I've ever heard him, Senator, on this issue of what kind of revenues he'd accept. And he seemed to say it's got to be rate hikes. In other words, bring the top 2 rates back to what they were during Bill Clinton's time. And that he said that, when it comes to shaving deductions and allowances, you couldn't raise nearly the amount of revenue. So it seemed to be a non-starter for him.
Yeah, it's important to remember, though, Neil, that since the election, he has not said once that he will veto anything that doesn't involve a rate hike for the top taxpayers. And deep down, he knows, just like the rest of us know.
I thought he did say that Jay Carney was saying that he would veto anything without a hike on the 250 and over credit.
Jay Carney may have said that. I haven't heard the president personally say that since the election. Maybe that's splitting hairs, I don't know. But we have to remember that if we do that, if we raise rates, even on just the top ratepayers, we're going to kill 700,000 jobs, according to Ernst & Young. And those will not be CEO jobs. Those are not top 100% jobs. Those are people living paycheck to paycheck.
But now I think it's come hell or high water. He feels, maybe Democrats feel cocky and self-assured. They're going to go full throttle with this. And come hell or high water. What do you think of that?
The fact that they might go full throttle on that, come hell or high water, doesn't mean that we should succumb. It certainly doesn't mean that we should surrender before the battle has even fully begun. So I intend on sticking to these principles. I am confident that there are ways that we can compromise, we can find common ground to help us avoid the fiscal cliff. But the way to avoid the fiscal cliff is not to surrender and simply raise taxes when we know that's only going to make matters worse. And it's going to make matters worse for the poorest among us.
Senator, good seeing you again. Thank you very, very much.